Hi, everyone, and welcome to ShowOHI. I hope you've already made some wonderful connections tonight. There will be a little bit more time after this panel discussion and Buckeye Choice Award wrap up. And so at the panel, after the end of the panel discussion, we will announce the Buckeye Choice Award presented by AEP. If you haven't already, please scan the QR code in your program and vote for your favorite Red Table presenter. First and second place will receive $400 and $200 respectively to advance their projects, so please make sure everybody votes. And my name is Emre Phillips. I'm a student lead in OHIO, the student org, and our mission is to foster tech culture at Ohio State and beyond. There is no part of industry or education that doesn't touch tech, so it's important to us to build bridges and support tech and innovation through events like this one. Tonight, we have a panel of experts prepared to answer questions that came directly from the project leads and entrepreneurs in the room about launching their ventures. I'd like to introduce Cheryl Turnbull, who is our panel moderator this evening. Cheryl is the Senior Director of the Keenan Center and is responsible for encouraging and resourcing an entrepreneurial ecosystem here at Ohio State, which makes her an excellent person to lead this discussion. Thank you, Cheryl. The floor is all yours.
Thanks, Amber. And yay. So welcome, everyone. It's super to see you all here tonight. And before we get started, there's just a couple people I want to recognize. First and foremost is Dr. Arnab Nandi. He started this event in 2015. And we are just, tell me here, say it loud. Yay. Thank you, Dr. Maris Longmire. Thank you. This is just fabulous. I mean, this has been going on for, since 2015. It's just grown. This is one of, I think, 10 different programs that take place throughout the year. It really helps spur that entrepreneurial ecosystem within Ohio State, which we're just so proud of. And so thank you for getting that started for us all those years ago. Thank you also to the team of Julia Armstrong, Cal King, and Amber Phillips who have put this on. Yay. You guys admit, this is a pretty cool event. It's a great venue. There was terrific food. All the tables were laid out terrific. So thank you for all their hard work. You wouldn't know, I mean, this seems so effortless. Behind the scenes, there was a lot of work going on. And thank you also to all our presenters. They did a great job at your red tables. You can see there's such a diversity of technology that's going on at Ohio State. You saw things that were going on from our students as well as from our faculty. And I think it's just so inspirational to see what Ohio State produces. So another round of applause to our presenters. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the three panelists that we have on tap for tonight. And their resumes are so impressive that I really need to have each of them introduce themselves. So I'm going to call on them one at a time to do that. So the first to my left here is Dr. Emre Koksal.
Hi. Yeah, I'm coming from an academic background, as Cheryl has mentioned. Got my PhD from MIT. And then I joined Ohio State University Electrical and Computer Engineering as a professor. I'm also the founder and CEO of Data Anchor. Always enjoyed entrepreneurship and taking technologies, license them out. And with Data Anchor, I wanted to do it myself. And here I am. Thank you.
And next we have Paige Wilson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paige. I run the Entrepreneurial Business Law Clinic at the law school here at Ohio State. And I noticed that we have a few of our clients in the audience and maybe a few who will become our clients. So at the EBLC, we offer free transactional legal services. We help out a lot of student startups and also other startups in the community. And I've been running this clinic for about 4 years now. And prior to that, I was working at a law firm in New York City called Gunderson Detmer. It's a Silicon Valley style practice, and we worked with a lot of startups, formation, financing through exit. So everything from Palantir and Peloton to when Tumblr got sold to Yahoo, that was the kind of stuff that we did. And now I'm here in Ohio and alongside everyone else in the room trying to build the scene up here.
Thanks, Paige. And next we have Dehart.
Hey, my name's Derek. I've been the head of a travel insurance startup, a venture-backed travel insurance startup called Battleface since January 2021. Sorry, time's been weird lately, as you all know. I started as employee number 23. We've since grown to over 100. So it's been a really exciting time for us, despite the pandemic. Prior to that, I was with a small company called Root Insurance, which some of you may have heard of. Really enjoyed my time in a fast-paced startup there. And in between, I took a little sabbatical and helped to co-organize and co-found Can't Stop Columbus with Juliet. And we had an amazing time impacting the community that way. I also sit on the board of Sea Change, which is a local social enterprise accelerator. If you haven't already, I know Mallory has a table here and you should chat with her about how you can make social impact a non-negotiable component of your business.
Thank you all very much. So we're going to start with Derek. Derek, you've developed a great deal of expertise in the insurtech sector with Root, Cover My Meds, and now Battleface. Columbus has previously led the way in the insurance industry with large companies like Nationwide and State Auto, who are headquartered here as well. What do you have to do as a startup company to disrupt such a massive industry? And do you partner or compete with these giants?
Well, first, I don't know if anyone can claim expertise in insurtech, but I try. We do what we can. But there's the fundamental distinction between the incumbent insurance companies in Columbus and throughout the world and all the startups that are really starting to disrupt that space is, frankly, customer centricity. So if you look at travel insurance as an example, although the same applies to auto, the travel insurance segment of the Nationwides of the world, of the Axes of the world, really represents such a small portion of their top line that it's not something they're super focused on. And so an entrant into the market like Battleface is able really to optimize for customer outcomes. So actually benefiting our customers, paying out claims, making sure that they have the right products, and wrapping that in an elegant digital experience that meets customers where they are. Whereas the incumbents tend to be so unfortunately bogged down and under the weight of their own bureaucracy that they can't react to the market nearly as quickly as startups can. Partnerships would be great where they're viable, but we've found that a lot of the insurance incumbents, frankly, just move too slow and they can't keep up with the pace of change that we're able to sustain.
I'm going to have an add-on question, a surprise one I didn't tell you about.
Cool.
Do you think the incumbents are the Walmarts or the department stores of the industry?
Amazing question. The incumbents today are the department stores. I think that the Walmarts have emerged and continue to dominate. So I would think of the Walmarts of the insurance industry, thinking back to auto to be like Progressive and Geico. So relatively modern. Certainly started out as customer centric, but have still started to slow down and generalize to the point where they can't really innovate.
Thank you. Next page. We work with so many entrepreneurs who experienced angst over their startup formation. They think it's onerous. They think it takes a lot of time. They don't know whether they should be a C Corp or an LLC, and this is like really stressful for them. How important are all those decisions with regard to setting up a startup company, and how do you suggest that entrepreneurs navigate that?
So startups should definitely form an entity, especially if you're going to enter into contracts with third parties, if you have any exposure to liability, or if you're working with joint assets. So if there's a bunch of you with some real intellectual property, maybe you develop something or you have some code, and you want to be able to contribute or assign it to the company. You want the company to own it in case anything goes wrong and someone leaves, the company should own it. So there's this question that comes up a lot. Should you be an LLC or should you be a C Corp? Now, when I was in private practice, when I was in New York City, I'd say 99.5% of my clients were C Corps. We got everyone just started off the bat as a C Corp. And if they came in as an LLC, we would convert them and then they would be a C Corp. And C Corps are the right choice if you are full-time and you know that you're going to be scaling and you know that you're seeking venture capital money. Investors typically can only really invest in a C Corp. There are special ways that you can have them invest in LLC, but for the most part, they want to invest in a C Corp. Now, I do give some different advice to some of the clients that we see in the clinic to go ahead and start as an LLC. So if I'm saying you want to be a C Corp, if you want to scale and get VC money, why be an LLC? You want to be an LLC if cost is really important to you, right? So it's $99 to file here in Ohio, whereas starting a Delaware C Corp, we're talking probably several $100s out of pocket, along with additional annual franchise taxes. And for college kids, that can be a lot. So 99 bucks, Ohio LLC. And especially, again, if you're not quite sure where it's all heading. And so we work with a lot of juniors and seniors, and they love the project, they're serious about it, but they also might go and take a job at Facebook or take a job at Amazon or something like that. They might peel off and do something else entirely. In which case, again, it can be a little bit lower stakes and easier to just create a pretty simple LLC right out of the gate right now. That's better than doing nothing. That's better than, not creating a C Corp and having no entity, because you want to have those contracts that do things like issue equity to all the co-founders, that assign IP, and that, again, shield you from liability that you might be exposed to if you're entering into contracts with third parties.
There's a lot behind what Paige just said. So that's why the business law clinic exists. Okay, next I'm turning to Emre, because Emre has started a company based upon the research that he was doing at Ohio State, and has gone full time to make that a reality in the commercial markets. And so has a lot of experience in bringing technology to market. And so the question I have for you is, how do you decide what goes into your MVP, your minimally viable product? And how do you determine kind of what's a feature and what's a benefit as you pitch this to customers?
Great question. So the way you asked the question, actually, it's like benefit versus feature. What should be in the MVP? It's as if like benefit and feature are kind of two conflicting things, but I understand the intention of the question. So let me first try to get the definition straight. So the benefit, I assume, is the utility that, say, a customer would get, the first order thing that the customer would get out of the product. Indeed, it's the first order thing. And feature seems to be more like a second order thing. Now that you have the main thing going on, how can I make it even better, right? So that's how I view future, the way the question is posed. So, first thing in all of that, so one thing we should be careful about, like the academic technologies, is that just because we think that we are solving a very difficult problem doesn't mean that it's going to be a great product, right? So we are all proud of ourselves. Hey, it's a very difficult problem. I spent years on this. Now I solved it. I'm the only one knowing the solution. So I now should take it to the next level. Doesn't work that way, actually. So you should first find that thing that we all talk about, right? I mean, the product market fit. So it's the scarce. I mean, the scarce thing or the difficult thing is to find that. And once you verify that, the rest of the stuff, you'll realize that is no longer scarce, like funding, for example. So that's the number one important thing. Like, I mean, in the MVP, focus on the real customer need and make sure that it's repeatable. Okay, it's repeatable, like not just one person needing it, but it's repeatable across the board. Take that and make it as simple as you can. So that's the MVP, okay? Simplicity, I cannot emphasize enough. So take that need, make sure it's repeatable, simplify it. Okay, so that's your MVP. That's what you refer to as benefit, I guess. So the second step, feature. Hey, can I make it such that, okay, I'm solving a true problem. Can I make it such that it's even easier? Like, I mean, I have this, and so now this other type of customer can take, instead of 2 steps, can take 1 step towards solving the same problem. Make sure that you keep adding those around it, with some sort of optimization so that you have enough resources for the whole business to run. But yeah, again, to repeat, simplicity on the benefit side, the customer need should be there. Once you make sure it scales, start adding the features to make it even simpler, or to make it, I don't want to say more sophisticated, but to solve the same problem in a fashion that is applicable to a wider audience. So,
How much of this did you know 2 years ago?
oh, very good question. No, no
He
comment.
sounds really good.
No comment.
Derek, I'm turning to you because Battleface claims that Irish states that it's building a humanity-focused travel insurance company to bring people in the world together. So what does this mean? How important is it to have that social component to the mission as you go ahead and build this company? And what's the impact on your ability to raise capital? Does it make it harder, easier?
I love this question. Thank you for asking it. So what it means to build a humanity-focused travel insurance company means that we fundamentally believe that travel is a net good in the world. So if you've had a chance to travel out of the state, had a chance to travel to another country, you've had a chance to experience a culture or talk to people who don't necessarily have your lived experience, then we believe that you're a better person for that. And that might be a trip to France, it might be a trip to California. And so as a travel insurance company, we're ultimately in the business of enabling travel. We're ultimately in the business of smoothing out the rough edges. And if something unfortunately catastrophic happens, then we can get you back on your feet and we can get you to the point that you can take your next trip. Some catastrophes can be financially debilitating, and we want you to be able to take that next trip because of that lived experience and because we can literally help bring the world together by helping people travel. That social component, that mission is core to everything that we do. You asked how important it is to the folks who work with us. It's why we're all there. If I'm being completely honest, we hire for passion. It's why I joined the team. And it's something that we live and we talk about every single day. Every single thing that we work on, every single feature that we ship, we ladder all of that up to our core mission. We ask ourselves, is this going to help us bring the world together? On the investment side of things, it's a little bit different story. So I wouldn't say that it makes it any easier or harder. At the end of the day, a venture firm and the partners that invest in a venture fund are looking for an investment vehicle. They're looking for an ROI. It's basically investing in an ETF or some mix of stocks and bonds. So it really doesn't enter into the conversation. However, I will say that as a society, we are evolving. As a business culture, we're evolving in some really exciting ways. How many people in here aspire to have their business or have their own business, something like that? Just a quick show of hands. How many of you believe that there's some fundamental purpose that benefits society associated with what you do? Most of those hands came back up, and that's what we're seeing in the world today. And so I would argue, I know that this is a little bit long-winded, I'll wrap this up, but I would argue that very soon we're going to see business and good being injected to business, being table stakes, especially as all of you grow up and you become the primary generational consumers. A business isn't going to be able to survive without some social component, and investors won't be able to ignore that.
I just was at a conversation with Cheryl Dorsey, who founded or one of the.
It's incredible.
Yeah, she's with Echoing Green, which is a social entrepreneurship group. And really, we were having a conversation of when does social entrepreneurship just become entrepreneurship? Because truly everybody involved in this wants to have some good go back to the world. We just had our President's Buckeye Accelerator program on, gosh, was it just, today's Friday, it was on Wednesday night. Some of the winners are here today. I would say it was incredible that our students, they weren't given a topic, it was just to show us what your venture would be. And I would say 201, they all had a social component to them. It was just incredibly inspiring. And I guess I think that at some point, pulling on the heartstrings is sort of, has an impact. So
It does.
thank you. Paige, okay, attracting tech talent often requires equity grants. What do you recommend in terms of types of equity, how you allocate the equity, how do you vest it to create long-term success, because despite all the social good, the people also have to like eat, and they're motivated by having a big hit. So how do we keep people on board?
Yeah, thank you. So first things first, you do want to make sure that your company issues equity. I have dealt with clients from time to time who come to me and they think they own their company, but they've made themselves president, but they have not issued themselves any stock. So you do have, that's what we're here to help with, us securities lawyers. So you have to issue the equity, and you do this via, a stock purchase agreement in a corporation, a unit purchase agreement in an LLC. And there are various restrictions that you want this to have. And it's protective of the company to have these restrictions. And here's what those restrictions look like. They involve vesting, which I'll get to in a minute. They involve transfer restrictions, so you can't necessarily just freely sell your shares to anybody. And they may include certain, rights of repurchase or rights of first refusal. I won't go down that rabbit hole right now, but suffice to say that you want any equity in a company to have restrictions that, again, restrict its use or its disposition, and that protects the company. Now, how should this equity be allocated? We have founders come to us with this question a lot. And it's, as a lawyer, I cannot say like, oh, Jack and Sally, who I met yesterday, I think you guys should be 60-40. I don't really know the inside of your company or what that looks like. You are the ones who know. But there are some guidelines that we give that can help sometimes with equity allocations, particularly if you find that you're not getting business advice from various business mentors who've been able to guide you in that way. And one of the things that we say outright is that you don't want to overestimate your initial contributions. So sometimes, you've just started a startup and you think, oh, we need to be 80-20 because it was my idea. I came up with it last week and you're just helping, but it's probably going to take 5 to 10 years to scale and sell. That's not going to make sense if the two of you are going to have to work together, 1 week's difference versus now you're going to work together for the next 5 to 10 years. You want to be, have equal incentives. You want to work as a team. So you want to be considering that teamwork, and you want to look at that long term. How long is it going to take to build the product and sort of exit? So you're thinking about, okay, how to divide up the pie over the next 4 years. How much are we each going to work? And maybe that does look like 25, 25, 25, 25 for a 4-person team. Or maybe that looks a little bit different, but you're not thinking about just right now or what happened last month, but you are thinking about over the next several years, what are people's contributions going to be? And then that's where the vesting comes in. So vesting means that you earn your equity, you earn your shares over time. And it's really important. So imagine, Derek and I start a company tomorrow and we're 50-50. And then I say, Derek, I'm going to go live in a yurt in Alaska. And you just keep building this thing because you're great at building. And you just mail me a check when we get acquired. Obviously, that would be a bad deal for Derek and a great deal for me. But he probably would give up on the company, if it's weighed down with all that debt equity. So instead, you want to have vesting. And a vesting schedule means that, it would say over the course of 4 years, right, you slowly earn your equity such that if I leave right away, I take nothing. If I leave after 2 years, okay, I can take 50% of what I initially had totally, was going to get. If I stay all 4 years, then yes, I get 100% of what we initially decided. Now, if it goes beyond 4 years, you can keep issuing equity, you can keep imposing vesting schedules, et cetera. You can always amend all these things. But the idea with vesting is that you have to earn it. And that's so that people don't peel off and just take a chunk of the company with them. And then that can really sort of weigh you down when you're trying to move forward and bring other people on board. And all this stuff is really essential and important. That's why at the clinic, we help with it for free. And there are also a bunch of really good automated platforms online too that can set up these documents for you. We always say, you want a solid legal foundation. Otherwise, everything you build on top of it, it can sometimes get some major cracks and other problems that you don't want to deal with down the road.
Thank you, Paige. And that's so incredibly important. I mean, just like you said, a lot of these ventures where you're just starting up, you're all excited and you all decide you're equal founders. And then you particularly as a student, you graduate and 3 of you go get a job somewhere. and you stop working on the project, but everyone has an equal stake. And it's very difficult to be successful on that basis. Vesting is super important. Okay, Emre, you're the last one, but this is a hard question because as you go to raise capital, everyone says, do you have traction? Traction meaning, do you have revenues? Sort of a catch-22. You need capital to get to the point where you have revenues, but you need to have revenues to have capital. How do you demonstrate that you have traction to investors when you're in a pre-revenue company?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. Elizabeth Holmes did a great job of that, actually. So not the example
Don't
that
do
we
that.
should follow here. So yeah, it's a great question. So there are, first off, ultimately you have to have traction. So again, we're talking about investors. Let me focus on growth-oriented VCs, okay? And I can also talk for a tech company in that regard, based on my experiences and everything. So now the VC model, if you focus on that, is highly risk-taking, right? So what does it mean? So let's think about where they are coming from. So they invest in many companies, and they're looking for that one, say 100x return. And if that happens, it doesn't matter, whether the rest of the organizations that they're funding is successful or not. So now that's the model that they're looking for. So you ultimately have to look for this significant growth, right? What we call this geometric or exponential growth, which you should be seeking for continual funding as the rounds or the fundraising efforts get to later stages. To get to that, obviously, you need to have, again, as a tech company, you need to have a technology, right? So at different stages, they look for different things. At earlier stages, for example, important things include before you get traction, obviously, like the team, okay? So, hey, are there like people who are like considered world-class in the team? So that's an important consideration. You have that. Look at the product. Is it covering a sufficiently large market, right? So, so that you can, if marketed and awareness is done properly, can it scale? So those are some of the things that they look at. And in the pre-seed, it's more like friends and family stage. You have to focus on the product, right? Hey, can you build this? Yes, I can build this. So you start with that MVP that we talked about in the previous question. And then the next stage is, okay, product market fit. Again, it's something that we have talked about. So like in the seed, VC, more institutional investment, do you have the product market fit? Yes. So in that stage, like in the later stages of the seed, you have to provably show that there's that fit, right? And in the next stage, now it starts to become more difficult because now you have product market fit, you have to start showing some traction, right? It's either like logo growth, or like revenue growth. I have a few customers, but like huge revenue, or I have tens of customers and I can repeat this in scale. So you have to start showing traction at those stages. But earlier stages, it's well understood that, yeah, I mean, you have to build the product first and then prove something. And again, note that just because you show that traction doesn't mean that it's continued, because the investment model that these VCs are coming from is highly risk-taking, right? They're seeking that 100x or 1000x constantly. So, it's always in that significant growth mode. But, again, to summarize my answer, earlier stages, about showing the fit and you have a stable product, but starting in the series investment rounds, namely series A, B, C, you can't, replace traction with anything else, so you have to show revenues.
Thanks, great answer. Amber, how are we doing on time? Can we take a couple questions from the audience? Are we done? Tell me, one or two? Okay, one question. Okay. Oh, come on, somebody has a question. These are experts up here. All right,
That
well,
problem is solved.
yes, go
Yeah.
ahead. Yay. ESG, environmental, social, governance, investing. So, and looking for sort of that triple bottom line of profits and social impact and environmental impact.
Yes, I'll take it. Yeah. So, you know, for us, it's really about being explicit about our values as a company and the principles that we use as lenses for decision making, and not to sound like a broken record, ultimately how those things ladder up to our mission. And there's a certain amount of authenticity, I think, that is also important there that helps to permeate a culture. And what I mean by authenticity is that there are things that we do as Battleface that I'm not even going to tell you that we do. We don't market that we do because we don't use our social impact as a platform off of which to promote ourselves. And so there's this undercurrent of authenticity if we genuinely want to do good, and we will do good. And it's something that we constantly have to reinforce. I mean, having grown from 20 employees to 100 employees is this cultural quagmire that I both hope everyone and no one has to go through, because it's a super interesting problem to solve. But it's really about repetition, it's about reinforcement, and it's about continuously helping people understand what it is they're contributing to, whether they are someone who's taking phone calls for us and helping travelers through their purchasing decision or through their trip, all the way up to the CEO who now in LinkedIn just refers to himself as a customer of Battleface.
I love that word, authenticity. It's like who you are, as opposed to kind of any mask that you're putting on. It's great. Okay, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you to this great panel. Give a round of applause, please. And with that, I'll turn it back to Amber. Thank you, Amber.
Cheryl, Emre, Paige, Derek, thank you all so much for speaking to us tonight. It was really amazing to have a panel of experts to share your experiences. I would like to introduce Josh Wong and Harshi Kosaraju to recognize our graduating OHIO leaders. So you two can come up. So we would like to take a second to recognize our seniors, Grace, Chris, and Dominic, for being an amazing part of our organizing team.
So not only have they been an integral part of our events, but they've also helped foster this amazing, open, and fun-loving community that we have here at OHIO. So once again, we really want to thank you guys, Grace, Chris, and Dominic.
We're really gonna miss you guys. Good luck with everything you do in the future. Grace, Chris, and Dom, we love you. Okay, now it's time for the Buckeye Choice Award. This award is for tonight's fan favorite, the group with an idea and a plan we all have the highest hopes for. Here from AEP to present is Wiley Elliott and Daniel Labby.
Okay, so the runner-up for the Buckeye Choice Award. Cool Beans. All right, are you guys here? And the first place award for the Buckeye Choice goes to Opendemia. Congratulations. Oh. wait a minute.
Congratulations, the Cool Beans, and congratulations, Opendemia. Well, with our remaining time, everyone is welcome to visit the resources and presenter tables, grab your final bites and drinks, and make those last connections with the best in tech from the Buckeye Nation. Before you leave, please drop off your name tag, and we will be open until 8:30, so continue on until then. Thank you all so much for coming.